Hello everybody and a very warm welcome back to the workshop. My name is Thibaut Jaberg, violin maker and student here at the Swiss School of Violin Making. So today we are just going to have a general little chat about what I am currently up to here in the workshop. The first thing is that I actually finished my viola, my small viola. This was actually, I mentioned this in a previous video, my goal for our spring holidays. This is actually the last day today of our spring holidays, and I managed to finish my viola in the white. Yeah. So I really like how it turned out so far. I hope the camera is focusing on it, but yeah, there will be of course some more close-up pictures and footage of this as soon as I finished it completely with varnish and everything. But yeah, for now it is actually finished and completed in the white, and I actually already had it in the UV cupboard upstairs, and so I just took it out to show you for the video, and it's already been in there for 5 days, I believe, so you might be able to tell it's already got a little bit of color in the spruce. Of course the willow does not change a lot in the UV light. But yeah, and it has got my olive wood fingerboard, or like I like to use olive wood at the moment. I've used it for the last violin, and I used it here again. And yeah, so far I am really a big fan of olive wood. And yeah, I really like the look as well, and just the actual properties of the wood. It's just so close to ebony. It's actually, in my opinion, it is almost slightly harder than ebony. When working it probably makes your tools like dull even a little bit quicker than ebony. And like the density, it's also so dense that it sinks in water. I would say it is slightly less heavy than ebony, but it's just a very, very small difference. But yeah, that's it. The small viola finished in the white, and yeah, now it will stay in the UV cupboard for probably close to a month or something like this. Like I mentioned, I think in the last video, we only have UVA and UVB in our UV cupboard, which means that it is fairly slow. So the instruments probably do take about a month inside this cupboard to get dark enough. And then after that we are going to, or I'm going to have a think about what I do next, because my initial thought was to go with our standard treatment in the ammonia fumes. However, I then remembered that people often use ammonia fumes for oak to actually make the oak go completely black. And then I thought that olive wood has a lot of tannin in the wood, just like oak does. I think olive wood might even have more tannin than oak. I mean, when you work olive wood, you just smell this strong tannin smell. It smells like somebody poured some red wine over the wood. It just smells very strong of tannins, even stronger than oak, I find. So actually my thinking is that probably if I put this viola in the ammonia with the fingerboard on, the fingerboard is going to be completely black. So I don't really want the olive wood to turn black. I think making olive wood go black might be an interesting idea, but it's something that I would really want to make or to produce on purpose, to make sure that it's really dyed to maybe a depth of like a few millimeters, dyed completely black, because I think if I put it now into the ammonia, it's probably gonna turn a bit blotchy, blackish gray, and then maybe like as soon as it's being like played for like a few months or a year or so, I would be scared that the black stuff might wear off. So yeah, for this one, I mean, I am going to do some tests with bits of olive wood in the ammonia fumes and see how it goes. Maybe it turns out nice, I don't know. But my thinking is that I'm probably going to use a different method on this viola, which does not like involve any ammonia. But yeah, like I think olive wood might actually be an interesting wood to actually try to dye black, to have an actual like proper ebony substitute. However, I must say that I also like the idea of one having like a light colored fingerboard. I quite like this aesthetically. And then also I sort of like the idea of like one not faking it, you know, like sort of a wood which is dyed black for me is sort of, it's, yeah, I don't like the idea so much than to actually have a black wood or actually just have the actual color of the wood. It's sort of, yeah, it almost feels like faking it for me to dye a wood black. And yeah, but I think it might still be an interesting option for people who want this traditional aesthetics of the black fingerboard. But yeah, otherwise, what have I been up to? I've actually, I'm currently, so because I finished this viola project, or in the white, and it's now going to be in the UV for a long time, I'm sort of taking the opportunity to actually finish off a few projects, because I noticed that I like to sort of finish projects and get them out of the way, and not having tons of projects and stuff building up in the background. They sort of tend to slow me down over time, just knowing that I have this backlog of projects that I wanted to get done. And one of those is actually rehairing a little psaltery bow for a friend. So I finally am getting around to doing this. It's just I actually wetted the hair and put them into place, and now I'm waiting for them to dry, and then I'll eventually finish the binding together and the burning off of the hair here on the end. So yeah, been doing some bow rehair, as you can see, like the bow rehair equipment in the background. And otherwise, I am currently doing some work on this rather interesting violin, which happens to actually be my violin number 2, which I built in 2019 when I was actually just 18 years old. And yeah, like, so I am currently doing, or like for the past few months, this is also a project which has started to take its time. So I've actually removed the belly. I opened up the sound box, and I did some things inside. I wanted to make the back thinner, because when I initially made it, I left it quite thick, because I felt at the time that it was a pretty flexible piece of wood, and I was scared to make it too flexible and too floppy. So I left it quite thick, and it was pretty heavy. At the time it weighed 118 grams, which is very heavy for my violin backs nowadays. So yeah, I actually reworked the back a little bit, and I also reworked like very sort of selectively the area sort of around the edge, around the perimeter of the belly. I slightly reworked that. I had a good look at the bass bar, and I initially thought I was gonna make the bass bar thinner and lighter as well. However, after looking at the bass bar again, I sort of decided I actually quite like it, which is surprising that this was actually my first ever bass bar, because even though I numbered this violin number 2, I actually built it parallel to my first violin. And so this is actually also in some aspects my first violin. So for example, the bass bar is actually the first ever bass bar I done. And I was actually quite surprised to find that when I opened up the violin again this year, that I noticed that actually my bass bar is still pretty similar to what I do today, which is, yeah, interesting. And I decided to leave it as it is. And actually the main thing I am changing about this is that I am actually going to set this violin up sort of halfway to a baroque violin, sort of like a transition sort of setup. It's going to be, yeah, like a mixture between baroque and modern, and you might be able to tell that the shape of the fingerboard is actually somewhat similar to a baroque fingerboard. It's got a sort of very mild wedge shaped to it, and it's got like this curve and recurve in the shape underneath. And yeah, I'm actually gonna come to the other side of the camera and show you a few things. So what I have been working on today is this tailpiece, which is going to go with the violin. I think it is going to look pretty cool. And yeah, this tailpiece as well is going to be like a mixture between baroque and modern. So the shape is somewhat modern. The curve is fairly round, however not quite as round as a modern tailpiece, but also not as flat as a baroque tailpiece. But like sort of very thin and elegant, or at least that's what I've been trying to achieve. And it's got just those very small holes here where I'm gonna thread the strings through, and it will be just tied in the baroque manner with a baroque style tail gut, which I'm probably still going to use Kevlar for it, but just tied in a baroque manner. So yeah, this is what I've been working on today, the tailpiece. And then I have here a bridge, which is not quite finished, but which is going to go for with this with my sort of, yeah, transition model. Oh, it's not wanting to focus. Now there we go. So yeah, it's pretty nice wood actually. It's very fine-grained, hard maple. And yeah, I actually designed this shape, or drew up this shape myself based on a few baroque and sort of classical models of bridges that we have at school. So it is sort of somewhat inspired by this Tartini model of bridge. But then yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna try out this this bridge. And then another thing which I will want to try out with this violin is, since it is not authentically baroque, I will actually try to use synthetic gut strings, at least for the E string, because like gut E strings are obviously known for snapping a lot. And I'd like to sort of have the safety and peace of mind of knowing that that my E string is not going to snap. So I'm gonna try like various synthetic materials, and I'm actually even going to go so far as to venture into sort of Japanese made fishing line. And I'm going to experiment with various fishing lines, and yeah, see like if I find something that happens to work. But yeah, let's actually, while I am here behind the camera, have a few close-up shots of the work of 18-year-old me, of my sort of, yeah, one of my first two violins, so which I numbered number 2. Maybe we can see the label. Oh yes, there we go, we can actually see the label. This was built in Brüttelen in Switzerland, and yeah, 2019, and I finished it in 2020, and I numbered it number 002. So I actually restricted myself to not being allowed to build more than 999 violins in my whole life. Yeah, but there we go. So yeah, let's actually, I'm going to talk you through a little bit this violin. So the model of this violin, like the basic outline, is actually a outline which was designed by my mentor in violin making at the time, and he designed this based on a Strad, but it is like fairly long for a Strad model. It is about how long is this? I think 357 millimeters, I think, which is fairly long. But yeah, I do quite like quite a few things about this model, like for example the fairly round C-bouts. I find are quite nice. And yeah, this was the first time that I used this model. My violin number 1 was actually based on a different model. And I used this model on my 4th violin, actually. So yeah, it is not too bad. And the F holes, I actually took some F holes which I had available, or like an example which I had available, which was a violin from the workshop of Nicolas Viola. So like French F holes, which were like an interpretation of Del Gesù F holes, and I took this French interpretation of Del Gesù F holes and I redrew them myself, and they turn out like this. And I must say, like, these F holes, sort of all these years after, or like 5 years after, is not a huge amount of years, but still, I actually still like those F holes quite a bit. They're potentially one of the things I like most about this violin. And then otherwise the archings, I don't know how easy it is going to be to show this on camera, but they are like very full. Like with my first violin, my archings are very pinched, sort of very amatissé, but even more exaggerated because I was a bit too brave with the gouge in the early stages. And with this one I was like fairly scared to go too far again, so I left the arching really full. The back arching I actually like quite a bit. It's like not a million miles away from what I do today. A bit different, but like mainly the belly arching I find is just that little bit too full and too high for my liking nowadays. And yeah, here you can also again see the curve in the fingerboard. It's hard to actually show it, but yeah, and a very slight hint of a wedge shaped in the fingerboard. You probably can't even tell on camera. And yeah, otherwise the scroll again is one of those aspects which is actually the like my first violin basically, because this was the first ever scroll which I carved. I carved this all on my own without really any examples or models or so. I had like this Nicolas Viola violin, but I did not really follow this at all. So this is a bit sort of, yeah, it turned out almost a little bit sort of like a mixture between some Del Jesus and the Bergonzi, sort of very narrow with these long ears. And yeah, it is fairly clean, sort of quite symmetrical, quite straight and everything. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it anymore. I mean, I like it, and I completely can accept the fact that this was my work at the time, and I find it is obviously now part of the violin, and I like it for this, but my style has obviously changed a lot. We could actually have a little comparison with the viola. So this is like my latest scroll, which I finished last week actually. So you can't have a scroll which is more recent from me. And yeah, it was like it's a very different style which I do nowadays, like a lot deeper in terms of flutings and stuff. And yeah, also the undercutting, I like to have a bit of undercutting going on. And yeah, I find the proportions nowadays have improved somewhat. But yeah. And yeah, what else is there to mention? Maybe the varnish is actually, I just went very simple with the varnishing. I treated the wood with a very strong solution of nitrite. I think it was like if I believe correctly, a 15% solution in water, which I just basted on there and then put into the UV cabinet overnight, and then it went nice and purple, brown, orange, sort of like a nice piece of of ham or something cured with nitrite. And then I actually just used some old wood varnish, so I didn't actually cook my own varnish at this time. But yeah, it worked out quite nicely, and it's got barely any pigments or so in there. So it's almost only the color of the wood and the nitrite and the varnish. And the advantage is that the varnish is really very transparent. I mean, you can really see how very lively the wood is. I don't know how well it comes across on camera, but this is really really quite lively. But yeah, I think this is already a fairly long video of me chatting about all the things I'm currently doing. And so yeah, I think I will actually leave it at that. I will now continue with setting up this. I would really like to hear it again soon. I mean, I have played it once with like a completely modern setup after doing those improvements, and I found that it did improve it a lot. But now I'm curious to experiment with this sort of half baroque setup. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.